or these piers, and then you remove these fiber grates, and then you crawl down, and that's how you access these gates that we'll be replacing. So in these photos, you can see over here, we've scaffolded down to the gates. I'm showing you this level of detail primarily to give you a sense of the working environment. It's going to be damp, cold, wet. It's going to be confined and difficult to access. And so this picture here, these are the floodgates, and the smaller gates, it's kind of hard to see. You can see the roller gates that lets water into this chamber, and then here's the sluice gates, which lets water out. And that's what operates the dams hydraulically to operate. And then here's some photographs of some of the components that we'll be replacing. You got some of the stems you can see here in these photographs. So as I mentioned earlier, the project involves replacement of a lot of smaller parts, components to make the whole operate efficiently. So here's kind of a project overview. I've kind of explained the number of gates, the location, how the gates work briefly, and then I'll explain here what we're planning on doing. Basically, we're looking at replacing 9 roller gates and their components, so the actuators and stems, and then we're looking at replacing the associated actuators with 9 of the sluice gates, and then 3 of the low flow gates and their components. We'll be replacing those. So this slide right here tells you why we're recommending that we proceed with this project. The roller gates, you can see here on the right is a picture of a roller gate. It's really reached the end of its service life. This is a gate that's been cleaned and several years old. But these are the roller gates, and they're called roller gates because they roll on these wheels right here up and down. And on this slide right here, you can see this is a plastic or a rubber, actually it's a rubber coating that tends to ball up. And whenever that happens, you have to shut down the whole pier, and it takes 3 gates out of service. And so that's starting to occur a little bit more than what it has in the past. And so we're looking at moving to a slide gate, which doesn't have that. Also, the actuators that are associated with these, they're about 30 years old, and it's difficult to find parts for those actuators to operate these or roller gates. We're also looking at changing the slide gates and the stems that are associated with the sluice gates, and we're moving to a stainless steel because of the water quality, and that heavier stainless steel requires heavier actuators or larger actuators to be able to operate those gates. And so we actually have 480 volt. You can see down here already at the dam, and it's located on top of the dam. We're moving from 240, which operates these actuators, to 480. That'll allow us to purchase higher or larger actuators to be able to operate the gates. And then the roller gates also, these right here, they're susceptible if we ever, thank goodness we haven't yet, but if we ever have zebra mussels at Possum Kingdom, just one little zebra mussel in there can stop that gate from functioning, so we'd have to go in there, whereas if we have the slide gates, we can kind of hammer right through if there were zebra mussels. So here's the schedule. We're hoping to issue the notice to proceed in October, so next month. And I know you can't read this, but it's about a year for design to go through. So about this time next year is whenever we'd plan to start construction, hopefully. So the scope of services, we went out for RFP. We selected Gannett Fleming as a project engineer, and the goal really is for Gannett Fleming to provide similar services as they did for our Pure Plate Wall project. That's a project that's ongoing right now. So they'll provide the engineering, the design drawings, and then the engineering support associated with that. We've had a very good working relationship with Gannett Fleming, and along with our RSMU. So our RSMU crew will be doing the work, the construction associated with this project. Here's the fee, or the fee associated with the engineering. So one of the smaller components of this is to do an evaluation of the Walkway bridge, a structural evaluation. We've got some pipes and some other things that are supported on that, and we've done a preliminary assessment. There's no dam safety issue associated with it, but we want to see if there's additional facilities that we might be able to utilize to place on that facility or on that structure. And then you can see task 2, 3, and 4. Task 3 is the engineering phase where they would provide support services, or it's construction engineering support. So if we don't, if our RSMU crew can go out and function properly, fabricate the gates, or the gates will be prefabricated, but installation of the gates goes well, there's a lot of that fee that actually would not be spent. And that's really pretty similar as we've kind of worked through the low flow or the pure plate wall project. We haven't spent all those funds associated with that. And I do have a resolution to seek the board's authorization to execute a contract with Gannett Fleming. The engineering costs were $1.3 million. I've rounded it to 1.4. The RSMU cost associated with this project is about $720,000, and that's about 18,000 man hours that we anticipate for them to do the construction. So it'll be about 10 months per pier, so about 30 months in total for the construction. The gates and the material costs are unknown at this time, but as part of the scope of services, Gannett Fleming will be doing a cost assessment, and so they'll provide us that number. We initially, through FYs 22 through 24, we've programmed about $1.76 million for this project, and so that'll get us through the engineering design and into construction, and in subsequent fiscal years, we'll budget for the associated cost of the gates and such. One of the greatest benefits that I find with this project is utilizing our RSMU group. The quality of workmanship is unmatched by any contractor, so that's a positive. But then the construction cost saving is going to be enormous. There's going to be a time during this project. These piers, as I said earlier, they operate three of our. If you take one pier out of service, that takes 3 gates out of service for flood operations. It's going to be a 30-month project. So at some point during that, we're going to have to, on very short notice, our RSMU crew is going to have to go in there, demobilize, and then put that pier back in service within 24 hours. And so if we were to do that and then contract this out with a contractor and seek a bid for it, I guess the contingency cost associated with that, or either a change orders associated with having to perform that activities, would be enormous. And so really, I think our RSMU group performing these services will save us really millions of dollars in the long run. So here's a resolution I do have for your consideration, but I will take any questions that you might have. Yes, sir.
Mike, just curious, the 480 volt that's required, is that because of the actuators are so hefty for the stainless steel and all?
Yeah, it's a much larger actuator, and it'll be able to allow the gates to operate quicker too. So the time that it takes for us to open a gate will shorten too.
That'd be great. Do we buy that commercially, or do we generate 480 ourselves?
No, we obtain that from the local co-op.
Okay, thanks.
There was another question.
Just real quick. Thank you for your presentation. Do you feel pretty comfortable with the procurement process as far as getting the engineered RFQ and the whole best practices thing on the procurement?
Yes, sir, most definitely. Yeah, and we have a great working relationship with Gannett Fleming. Went through the process, and by far they were standout above the others.
Good enough. Thank you.
Yes.
I want to thank you for that very clear, concise presentation.
I would apologize, I kind of rushed through it a little bit.
I mean, it's wonderful. Short of actually climbing down and being there and seeing that, who takes those pictures?
Either myself or, some of the guys there. And that is something, that I would like to offer. I realize we've been through COVID and stuff, and I know you've been up there a couple of times. And I think, Director, you actually crawled across the dam one time. But, as we progress, that's something that we could, if y'all ever wanted to climb down there, you could. And
Absolutely.
It gives you a better view. I struggle with sometimes trying to show you, the actions that we're planning on doing. It's hard to convey in pictures sometimes.
Absolutely. Well, you did an excellent job, and thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? All right. Mike, please read the resolution. Or
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager CEO to enter into a contract with Gannett Fleming Incorporated to provide engineering services for the flow control gate replacement project at Moore Shepherd Dam in an amount not to exceed $1,400,000.
you've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
I move to approve. And I'll second.
Motion made by Director Henderson and a second by Director Crone. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Tallis.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Abraham.
Yes.
Director Bourne.
Yes.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Director Henderson. Yes. Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Leslie.
Yes.
Director Lloyd. Director Luton.
Yes.
Director Rankin.
Yes.
Director Reeves.
Yes.
Director Sanderson.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Item number 3, discussion and possible action on medical insurance by Monica Willis, Human Resource Manager. Monica,
Good morning.
good morning.
I don't really have a presentation, so while she's pulling that up, this is an action item for the general manager to execute all contracts necessary to continue the fully insured medical plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield. The BRA has been with Blue Cross Blue Shield for about 6 years, since 2016, and each year our insurance broker, Hub International, meets with Blue Cross to negotiate our rates for the following year. As a result of increased premiums over the past 12 months, Blue Cross initially quoted the BRA a 15.2% increase for the 2022 plan year. However, because we now have nearly the 6 years of claims experience with Blue Cross Blue Shield, Hub was able to negotiate the increase down to a 3% increase with no plan design changes. So BRA, this I think is a phenomenal stat, has only experienced a total of 5.4% increase in premiums over the past 6 years with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And that includes this 3% for next year. So are there any questions regarding insurance? Yes, sir.
So you've been with them 6 years?
Yes, sir.
And they make a proposal for 15?
Yes.
You offer, and you negotiate down to 3?
Yes, sir.
And the average over 6 years has been 1%?
The total over the 6 years is 5.4%, including this 3%.
Have you ever audited them, have someone audit them to see how their fees, your brokers, what you're paying, your discounts you get in hospitals? I guess your main discount is this area, well, at least statewide, obviously.
Yes, it's statewide.
Audited just to see how they're staying between the lines. Not that they would ever have discrepancies across the shield, but it's always, this is like good neighbor, I've always learned. Have you ever looked at that?
We do, this was put out for an RFP in 2019, and through that process, the Hub International manages that piece of it. In 2019, because of how we're laid out, we have Possum Kingdom, which is very remote, Lake Limestone, very remote, down to Sugar Land. Because we're so spread out, we're unable to use smaller insurance companies. So we usually have Blue Cross Blue Shield, United, and Aetna are the 3 that are able to provide services to, all our outlying areas. So those are the 3 main. I can't remember if all 3 bid in 2019, but by far Blue Cross came in the best.
I understand going forward, but I think you might be more involved in seeing what the bid looks like, proposal, and how many people are drawing interest, any kind of bottlenecks that keeps other companies from bidding on it.
Mm-hmm.
Try to keep costs down. Of course, your costs is down, but your averages is great. It's
Yes, sir.
interesting on how it works out on that. But insurance is certainly one of the highest things you can find now in commercial business.
Yes. Yep, I agree. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your comments, Director Bourne. Anybody else?
And there is
All
a
right.
resolution.
Please read the resolution.
Whereas the Brazos River Authority has maintained a relationship with Hub International since 2015 to provide benefit consulting services. Whereas the Brazos River Authority has maintained a fully insured medical plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas since January 1, 2016. Whereas Blue Cross Blue Shield is increasing the rate of medical premiums for the Brazos River Authority by 3% for an approximate increase of $86,000 for the 2022 plan year. And Whereas the estimated total cost of medical premiums for the 2022 plan year will not exceed $3,300,000, and the funds budgeted for medical premiums in FY 2022 are adequate to pay the medical premiums as quoted by Blue Cross Blue Shield. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager CEO to enter into all agreements necessary to continue the relationship with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas to provide the Brazos River Authority a fully insured medical plan at the rates quoted for the 2022 plan year and within the financial parameters set forth in the FY 2022 budget.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? Oh,
Question, Chairman Thompson. One more question?
a question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Director Boren, will you turn your microphone on?
Excuse me, how many employees do we have totally that you're, for BRA?
We have about 259 full-time employees.
259, and your
Yes, sir.
premium is 3.3?
Yes, sir. But-
Okay.
And that 3.3 includes the contributions employees make also. The contract that the general manager will enter into is the full amount, both employee and employer costs.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Please
I
poll the
move to
board.
approve.
Or actually, I need a motion. Director Huber,
Second.
second by John Henry. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Tallis.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Abraham.
Yes.
Director Boren.
Yes?
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Leslie.
Yes.
Director Lloyd. Director Luton.
Yes.
Director Rankin.
Yes.
Director Ruiz.
Yes.
Director Sanderson.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 4, report and possible discussion on Clean Rivers Program Basin Highlights Report by Tiffany Malzahn, Environmental and Compliance Manager.
Presiding officer, members of the board, Tiffany could not be with us this morning, so I would like to introduce you to Jenna Olson, which works for Tiffany. She is our environmental programs coordinator and does an outstanding job in that realm. So meet Jenna.
Thank you. Good morning, directors. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little about our Clean Rivers Program Basin Highlights Report. Okay, as you know, we participate in the Clean Rivers Program, and there are components in that program of water quality monitoring, data assessment, there's a public involvement component, and reporting. So as far as the CRP reporting requirements, we have to produce a basin summary report once every 5 years. And that's a very comprehensive review of water quality, and we do a 20-year trend analysis in that report. But annually, when a basin summary report is not due, we've got to produce a basin highlights report. Now, this basin highlights report can come in 3 different formats. There's a programmatic update, a watershed characterization, and a standard basin highlights report. And this is on a rotating basis so that each year you don't get the same type of report with the same information. So you get a different report each year. So in 2021, our Basin Highlights report was of the programmatic update type. And in this report, we discuss ongoing activities and projects in the basin that address water quality concerns that we have. There's a summary of water quality monitoring results for that year, and an overview of the routine monitoring that took place that year, so in 2021. And we have lots of maps that show our monitoring stations and that type of thing. And we also summarize the TCEQ's most recent Texas Integrated Report on Surface Water Quality, and their most recent report was the 2020 report. Now, they come out with one of these every 2 years, so they have one due in 2022. But like I said, we like to summarize their results in these basin highlight and basin summary reports. So in that report, there are a lot of maps that summarize a lot of data. This is an example of one of the type of maps showing some of the water quality impairments in the basin. And we also go over water quality concerns. And I believe y'all have this report in y'all's packet, and it can also be accessed on our website. So, do y'all have any questions about this?
Any questions?
So as you're, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just have a question. Is there any particular location they take the samples from?
Yes, lots of monitoring stations. We have BRA monitors a little over 100 on a either monthly or a quarterly basis, and these reports do show the exact monitoring stations where we collect data throughout the basin.
So we continue the same location every 2 years?
Yes, correct. So we get long-term data, so we can produce some of that data trending type stuff. You can also, Tiffany has probably presented this before, access our data site-specifically on our website. Yes, sir.
I might have missed it, but how would you rate the quality of the water? I mean, you had all those different bacteria and everything else, and so how would you rate it?
In general, it's pretty good.
Pretty good?
All over the state of Texas. Yes, generally it is. Our biggest issue, and yet again, really the whole state of Texas, are bacterial impairments. But a lot of these have been going away over the years because the way they assess it, you've got a state water quality standard. And then they look at the data from whatever water body it is and apply that standard to it. And if it's busting that standard, it goes on the impaired list. And once it does that, the TCEQ is obligated to do something about it. So some of these smaller streams that do have bacterial impairments, the state has been working to get proper standards to apply to these. So once they use a more appropriate standard, a lot of these bacterial impairments go away.
Explain the source of a bacterial source.
Wildlife is probably the biggest source.
Wildlife.
Non-point, yes.
Cattle,
Yes.
pigs,
Absolutely, yes.
humans too?
Yes, failing septic systems. So, yes, absolutely.
Maybe even bears.
Was there any reason why the Bessie Creek? I live pretty close to that, so I was just wondering why that.
That's one of our monitoring stations.
Okay,
It was
yeah.
just a nice picture of one of our monitoring
I
stations.
was like, hey, we went back to water.
What are you doing to the water down there?
I'm not swimming there anymore.
There was a sample that they kept taking on Lake Granbury that was just off the charts. And they figured out that there was this old fella had a pressure washer and he'd go up under this bridge and wash down the bird nest, the mud martins or whatever you call them, and it was,
Yep.
Were you the guy with the pressure?
no, it's too high class an area for me.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
for
Thank you.
the discussion opportunity. Moving on to agenda item number 5, discussion and possible action on Brazos water snake study contract with BioWest. And obviously Tiffany's not here, so David?
I will take that. So when we start preparing our agenda for board meetings, agenda write-ups and the agenda is created about a month in advance. And in the last few weeks, we haven't gotten comfortable enough to bring this to the board. So I'm going to request that we pull this agenda item and the board will present it, the staff will present it to the board at a future date.
Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action on interlocal agreement with Texas Parks and Wildlife for invasive species by Brad Brunette, Central and Lower Basin Regional Manager. Brad, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is an action item for authorization for us to enter a new interlocal agreement with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department that will allow us to continue providing funding for public awareness campaigns against the spread of invasive species, and we're mainly talking about zebra mussels and giant salvinia are probably the two most notable ones. We've been doing this now for about the last 8 years. We've had interlocal agreements. We've been providing $10,000 per year, but our most recent interlocal agreement expired this year, and so we need to renew that to be able to continue providing these funds into the future. This proposed agreement that we have that we'll be asking for approval for today will take us through fiscal year 2026, and we would continue to provide $10,000 per year in each of the next 5 years under that. You can see on the slide here, this is just an example of, really dramatic zebra mussel photos there in the center and the lower left and lower right. And I think that's giant salvinia in the top left and right. We're one of many entities that participate in this program. There are a number of other river authorities, water districts, and cities that contribute as well. And the funds are used for educational signs and posters, radio announcements, billboards, signs at boat ramps, even some radio advertising to help better educate Texas boaters, about the threat of invasive species. And I think the last time when we renewed this interlocal, there was a question about, how effective the advertising is. And while I can't quantify that, and I can't say that through this program that we're going to never have zebra mussels at any more of our lakes, because it's likely that at some point we will, but it's a relatively inexpensive investment to defer that. Mike talked about our gate program up at PK. The longer we can go where we don't have zebra mussels at our reservoirs, that's a good thing for us, and it's relatively inexpensive cost to defer more expensive means of having to deal with them when we get them. So we would ask that you would approve the interlocal that would allow us to continue providing that funding into the future, and obviously it will be subject to the adoption of the budget each year.
Brad, I have a quick question. So a couple of years ago, we heard so much about the zebra mussel, and then I feel like over the last year or so, it's been silenced a little bit more. Why do you suppose that is?
I think there's probably a couple of things. People are probably getting more used to the thought that we're going to have them. They've been around now probably for 10 years or so in Texas, maybe longer than that. I do note, it seems like in my personal observations, every year there's several more lakes that get added to the infested list. We haven't had any new ones within our system probably in the last 2 years. I think Lake Granger was probably the last one, and we have 4 now: Belton, Stillhouse Hollow, Georgetown, and Granger. And the other thing is I think they're a problem to deal with, but I think, it's one of those things that until you see it, there's a fear that maybe it's worse than it really is. And so I think people have gotten better at being able to manage and treat them as well. So it's probably a combination of those things.
Proactive. All right. Director Savage has a question.
So is that copper ion treatment that we're using pretty effective?
Yes, sir. It seems to be. I mean, we're in the process of having that system designed right now. I think we just passed 60% design. So at some point we'll be getting a contractor out to install that system on our structure. And there are several others in Texas that are moving to that as well.
And how about that giant salvia? So how does it manifest as a problem for us?
It can clog up, lakes, take oxygen out of the lake, make recreation difficult. We've had some of it at Lake Limestone here recently, and Parks and Wildlife Department has actually gone out and treated it. But Jenna or somebody else from our water quality group might speak more to that better than I can. But it's a water quality and a recreational problem.
All right. Seeing no other questions, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to execute a new interlocal agreement with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department and to provide funding in an amount not to exceed $50,000, with $10,000 being provided in fiscal years 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, and 2026 for the public awareness campaign to fight the spread of invasive species in waters of the Brazos River Basin.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? A motion made by Director Crone, a second by Director Savage. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Tallis.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Abraham.
Yes.
Director Bourne.
Yes.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Leslie.
Yes.
Director Lloyd. Director Luton.
Yes.
Director Rankin.
Yes.
Director Ruiz.
Yes.
Director Sanderson.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 7, discussion and possible action on Lake Granger intake slope stabilization by Brad Brunette, Central and Lower Basin Regional Manager. Brad?
So this is an action item as well. It's for engineering work that's needed for our intake structure at Lake Granger, which supplies raw water to our East Williamson County Water Treatment Plant. We've had some erosion issues there on the shoreline adjacent to that structure over the last 6 to 8 years that we need to address. What you're looking at here is just an overhead image of that new intake structure that we constructed back in 2013. That's the pump house building, if you will, that you see there. And inside that building is a wet well, which is like a kind of a giant cistern type thing that goes down deep into the ground. And then out of that well, the intake piping extends out horizontally into the lake. And so water flows through the piping into that wet well, and it's pumped from there to the water plant. So that's just kind of to orient you where we're talking about here. And you can see a little bit, let's see if I can get this lasered. Down in here, this is some of the areas where we're having erosion, and even up through this area here. This slide here is actually looking back at the structure from the lake, and here you can better see some of the erosion. If you look at that white sign and the retaining wall right in here, we've had quite a bit of erosion there. What you're looking at here is the lake elevation. Here is the normal elevation of 504, and so this is a Corps of Engineers flood control reservoir, and so it's different than our 3 reservoirs, which don't have flood pools. It's designed when we have wet weather, the reservoir rises up into the flood pool, and the Corps of Engineers will store the water there temporarily, depending on conditions downstream. So we've had quite a few wet periods, particularly since 2015, which was just a couple of years after this structure was completed. We've had water levels up 5 to 10 feet above normal quite a few times, in one event where the water level was up 15 feet above normal. And so when you have those events, rather than the lake being down here, the lake is up in this area here. And the longer it stays up there, it saturates the bank, and the wind and wave action just exacerbates that erosion. So that's what we need to address to be able to protect the structure and moving forward into the future. We're proposing to contract with Gannett Fleming to design a solution to stop the erosion. They've got the expertise that we need, and also have been very responsive in working with us on other projects. I know we've used them a number of times up around Possum Kingdom on engineering work up there. We've got a contract and a scope of work negotiated with them. This slide here shows the major task elements, the schedule, as well as the not-to-exceed cost for that project. And I've got a resolution for you. It'd be asking for approval of up to $400,000, which is about 10% more than you see here, just in the event we have any unforeseen issues that arise that we would need to address without having to come back to the board for that. And I think that's my last slide other than the resolution. Be happy to answer any questions on this one.
Director Henderson has a question.
I'd be interested in taking a visit out there to see this.
Okay.
Just wanted to put that in there. Great presentation otherwise.
You bet.
So before COVID, we were on a schedule of doing tours of our dams in the fall when it cooled off, and then tours of our treatment facilities in the spring. As soon as COVID allows us to get back there, we're really excited about getting board members back on our structures for sure. So well noted.
Director Rankin has a question.
No.
What's the difference in...
Can you turn on your microphone, please? Thank you.
What's the difference in height above sea level from our structure and the spillway?
I don't know that there is an emergency spillway there. It's the top of the flood pool is what, the Corps of Engineers, they have top of conservation, which is at elevation 504. And then they have a top of flood pool, which is essentially what their dams are designed for. And so that top of flood pool at Granger is probably, I'm going to guess 25 or 30 feet above the conservation pool, and our structure is built above that. So, when we're
I was just the difference.
yeah, 20, 25 feet from the flood pool.
Our structure is above the flood pool?
Yes, sir.
Director LaChance has a question.
It's really more of a comment. I'm impressed with the projects that the staff has brought today. I think that they are strategic, well thought of. It feels to me more proactive than reactive. I would challenge, the staff to continue to look out maybe as a 5-year planning in identifying these projects, looking at the timeline that these projects just to get through the design phase takes. I think that you really do have to be very strategic in our approach to priorities, where we're allotting money, just that process. But thank you both for very nice projects today.
Director Tallis has a comment.
You read my mind. In fact, David, I was going to suggest, back when you first came on, David, you changed the way we looked at projects, and I think that would be a good item in the future to go back and revisit your strategic plan and how you've directed the staff and how we're doing it a little bit different than maybe we did it a few years ago.
Right.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Director Taylor has a comment.
Just curious, nothing against Garrett Fleming because they're exceptional engineers, but how many people responded to your RFP?
We didn't do an RFP on this one because of the urgency of the issue. It's one that we wanted to get out in front of. So Gannett Fleming has been under contract with us on several other projects up at PK, and they understand our contract well. They're comfortable signing our contract. And so because of the sensitivity of this project in particular, if we had another wet winter where we've got more erosion, we were looking at ways to cut down on the time to actually get a solution put in place.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Brad. I believe you have a resolution for us to consider.
Yes, ma'am.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to negotiate and execute a contract with Gannett Fleming Incorporated for engineering services associated with the evaluation, design, and pre-construction phase services needed to reinforce and stabilize the shoreline and slope adjacent to the raw water pump station at Granger Lake, East Williamson County, Texas. Be it further resolved that the fee for engineering services associated with evaluation and design phase shall not exceed $400,000.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? A motion made by Director LaChance, second made by Jen Henderson. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Tallis.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Abraham.
Yes.
Director Warren.
Yes.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Leslie.
Yes.
Director Lloyd. Director Luton.
Yes.
Director Rankin.
Yes.
Director Ruiz.
Yes.
Director Sanderson.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 8, discussion and possible action on agreement with Hillco Partners by Matt Phillips, Legislative and Governmental Affairs Manager. Matt.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. This is actually an action item, and I almost never bring y'all action items. So that's what happens when you lose a bet. But this is essentially to allow the GM to enter into a 2-year agreement with Hillco Partners. It's really more of a renewal because we already have an agreement with Hillco. Hillco has been our lobbyist down in Austin for a number of years, since the 80s. They do an outstanding job for us and have for the entire time. They are the top lobby firm in the state of Texas. I think you'll find very few people that would argue that. And they've been a major part of many of our successes over the years, both at the Capitol and outside. They were a big part of our system operations permit, for example, so they've done a lot of heavy lifting for us. And so the reason that you're seeing this today is over the years, we've entered into 1-year agreements with Hillco. So we've had an agreement that carries us through a session, and then an agreement during the interim, and then an agreement during the session. And so for efficiency's sake, it makes sense to start doing 2-year agreements, which will carry us through a session. And so the way that we'll start doing that, and in this case, this agreement would begin in October of this year and then carry us through the end of September 2023, which will carry us through the next legislative session. It just makes more sense to do it like that. This sets up the process where the board will see this every 2 years. The other reason that you're seeing this today is, and you've heard this in my legislative updates previously, there's a lot of talk about public entities having lobbyists. And most of that is centered around cities and counties. Very little of that is directed at us. And we've always been very transparent in our relationship with Hilco, that they are lobbyists. It's in our budget, which you adopt every year, so it's very out there and transparent. But we feel, why not be even more transparent and bring this to the board every 2 years and obviously give David the authority by adopting the resolution publicly. So that's the other reason that you'll see it, and this will set up the process where each September board meeting after a session, this contract will be brought back to y'all. So
Matt,
that's
great
it.
idea. Hilco has been very responsive to the BRA, great communication. Great idea.
Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Director Savage has a question.
So what, we have an unusual year with 3 special sessions. How does that work? I mean, so is that handled?
So the way the contract's set up, we have a retainer, a monthly retainer that's $13,250. If during a regular session, the normal sessions, that retainer bumps up to $15,250. During a special session, if it's on a topic that has to do with BRA, we do pay the session rate. We did not do that during the first 2 specials. During this third special, we are, because we are working on trying to secure some of that ARPA funding for the backup generation costs that we're doing for Senate Bill 3.
Director Abraham had a question.
Yes, I just want to make a comment. I appreciate we using Hilco partners. I work with them almost 8 years for the city of Sugar Land. They are wonderful people. They are pretty reasonable and they know their business. I appreciate you doing that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you for the discussion. I believe there is a resolution to be read.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to enter into an agreement with Hilco Partners for legislative consulting services for a 2-year period in an amount not to exceed $370,000.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? Motion made by Director Crone, second by Director Abraham. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Tallis.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Abraham.
Yes.
Director Bourne.
Yes.
Director Hernandez.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Heber.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Leslie.
Yes.
Director Lloyd. Director Luton.
Yes.
Director Rankin.
Yes.
Director Ruiz.
Yes.
Director Sanderson.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 9, discussion and possible action on Brazos River Authority bylaws by Riley Woods, Senior Staff Counsel. Riley?
Morning.
Good morning.
Haven't seen y'all in a long time. So we're gonna first bylaws, and then next will be policies. So we've got a few bylaw changes. 2 of them are due to sunset. Through the sunset process, a number of policy changes, procedure changes, and a couple of them that we felt belonged in the bylaws were recommended, and so we're implementing those. And let's see here. I'm not sure how this thing, let's see, there we go. Okay, so first, this is a sunset requirement. They wanted us to include a provision related to grounds for removal for board members that lays out these 5 different reasons that a board member could be potentially removed, and the process for doing that. And so we're including that in our in the bylaws. Are there any questions on this?
Yes.
Yes.
Item number 5, talk to me about the process of invoking item number 5.
I am going to guess that it's going to need to be raised by someone in the board, and then there would be, like I said, it would, if it's believed there's an issue, then there would be a vote.
Okay.
I'm guessing put on the agenda item.
So the default then is if someone's missing from that meeting and nothing is raised, then that is a default, is that is an excused absence.
I
Director
don't know
Sanderson.
I don't know that would necessarily be the case.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is we just had 2 people that were missing, but no one said anything about it being excused or non-excused absence. So how do you really document that?
The way this is at the beginning of the year,
Mhm.
it's mapped out what our meetings are.
Mhm.
And if somebody misses half of our regular scheduled board meetings, then they are subject to the board considering a vote for removal.
But the clause is without an excuse approved by a majority vote of the board. When does that occur?
That
When
would
someone
be-
decides,
That would be after their half. If they've missed half, then it would be a board agenda item
Mhm.
to vote for removal.
but without an excuse approved by a majority of the board is the clause I'm referring to. Does that, am I making it clear? Maybe not.
Yeah.
In other words, at what
Well,
point in
The
time,
majority of the board has to vote for the removal.
First we vote on.
without an excuse
the-
approved
I
by?
think first they would probably vote on whether or not they agree that there's an excuse.
Right.
Right.
And if the board member has an excuse, then a majority agrees with, and they would do that, and then there wouldn't be a removal.
But that's not on an ongoing basis. That's just at the point that something's been triggered by missing more than half. I just want to make sure that everybody understands what the process is.
Yes.
Yeah.
They may not even be at the meeting they're getting voted out on.
Yeah, well, you know, that guy, I've been sick and he dies on you, and it won't be an issue anymore, right? But the point being, you just want to understand. Yeah. Okay. That's it. That's all I have. Just mathematics.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, and this is the language that's provided to us by Sunset, and I think that would be the way it would work.
Yeah.
Is if somebody does not have if somebody has the requisite absences, then there would be a vote on whether or not they have it. If they offer an excuse, if they don't offer an excuse, then I guess you would just have the vote on dismissal.
Right.
Okay, next edit we're doing, because if y'all recall back in January, we changed from having 4 board meetings to the board determining in January how many board meetings are going to be during the year. And so if there's more than, back when there was 4, the October board meeting was always the last meeting of the year. Since it's possible, depending on however many meetings are decided on, the last board meeting could be September, it could be October, it could be November. So in odd number years, when you all vote on officers, it's always the last board meeting. So we're just changing October to last.
I just
And-
want to offer clarification. We don't vote on board members.
I'm not board members, board officers, I apologize, yes. Board officers.
And the governor appoints the directors to the board.
Yes.
And then the chair selects the officers.
Yes, and then they vote on officers.
The chair selects the committees, and then the board as a whole votes on the vice president, treasurer.
Okay.
Right.
That is
And
true,
we do that
yes.
in the last board meeting of odd number years, yes.
Yes, that is true. Thank you.
And then this last one was another change that Sunset recommended, and we already do this. We have always done this. So putting it in here is not changing anything we don't already do, but it's allowing for a public comment session at the beginning of the, or at whatever time that we decide we want to do it in the board meeting, but allowing the public to comment on agenda items. One point we put down here, we're not able to respond to comments that are in relation to items that are not on the agenda, but this was the last one, and I will ask if there are any questions on any of the changes, any further questions. Yes, sir.
We are not able to comment on any items, whether they're on the agenda or not, to the public, right?
I think you can on items that are on the agenda, but you know, sometime maybe you wait and you do it during the agenda item. But what you cannot do is comment on it or engage in a conversation on an item that's not on the agenda.
Okay.
Any further questions? If not, we can read the resolution.
Right, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby approves the following changes to the Brazos River Authority bylaws. In Article 2, Board Structure, add the following new section. Section 2.06, Grounds for Removal. It is a ground for removal from the board that a director, 1, does not have at the time of taking office the qualifications required by Special District Local Laws Code, Section 8502.009. 2, does not maintain during service on the board the qualifications required by Special District Local Laws Code, Section 8502.009. 3, is ineligible for directorship under Chapter 171 Local Government Code. 4, cannot, because of illness or disability, discharge the director's duties for a substantial part of the director's term. Or 5, is absent from more than half of the regularly scheduled board meetings that the director is eligible to attend during a calendar year without an excuse approved by a majority vote of the board. The validity of an action of the board is not affected by the fact that it is taken when a ground for removal of a director exists. If the general manager, chief executive officer has knowledge that a potential ground for removal exists, the general manager, chief executive officer shall notify the presiding officer of the board of the potential ground. The presiding officer shall then notify the governor and the attorney general that a potential ground for removal exists. If the potential ground for removal involves the presiding officer, the general manager, chief executive officer shall notify the next highest ranking director, who shall then notify the governor and the attorney general that a potential ground for removal exists. In section 4.02, election date, delete the word October and replace with the word last. In Article 5, meetings, add the following new section. Section 5.06, public comment. At each meeting of the Board of Directors, members of the public shall be afforded the opportunity to address and provide comments to the Board of Directors. The Brazos River Authority reserves the right to implement reasonable rules related to providing public comments, including rules that limit the total amount of time that a member of the public may address the Board of Directors. The Board of Directors cannot respond to comments that are not related to items on the posted agenda.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
A motion made by Jen Henderson and a second by Director Wilson. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Tallis.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Abraham.
Yes.
Director Bourne.
Yes.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Leslie.
Yes.
Director Lloyd. Director Luton.
Yes.
Director Rankin.
Yes.
Director Ruiz.
Yes.
Director Sanderson.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 10, discussion and possible action on revisions to operations policies manual by Riley Wood, Senior Staff Council.
Yes, okay, so we have an operations policy manual that was adopted by the board many, many years ago. And what we do is after each legislative session in the fall, we've gone through and taken a look at the various bills that are passed by the legislature and find those that rise to a level that we believe need to be included into the operation policy manual for ongoing operations of the BRA. Most often what we're dealing with are amendments or updates to policies that we already have where language has been changed by the legislature. So, and what we've also included in here are, there's maybe a couple items from sunset. And as y'all recall, sunset was passed by the legislature also and had a number of items we had to adopt. You're not going to see everything here because many of the items were procedurally based. So we we developed procedures internally that dealt with those items. But there are a couple in here that were requested by Sunset. So if we can bring up I think the PDF, yeah. And then, hey, Lisa, am I able to switch on this or yeah, okay. Okay, so first one, Prompt Pay Act. This is under our procurement section. We are subject to the Prompt Pay Act. This was a new provision that was added that we think was important to note, that about providing notification to vendors in the event of a dispute and only allowing to withhold up to 110% of a disputed amount. Next is prohibition on boycotting. It used to be a few years ago, they passed a law about boycotting Israel so that we couldn't do business with vendors that boycott Israel. They've added a few more provisions to this, so Israel's no longer the only one. They've also added, let's see, can I go down? There we go. One that they added is vendors can't boycott companies that are in the oil and gas business that do not pledge or meet environmental standards beyond those applicable to federal and state law. And we also are not allowed to hire vendors that discriminate against entities involved in firearms trades and the firearm industry. And basically what this means is this is language we've got to put in our contracts whenever we're going out for bids and proposals. Next, we've got procurement of legal services. This is in relation to contingency fee contracts. They passed some legislation a couple years ago on that. They updated it this year. One, to clarify that if you're going to enter into a contingent fee legal contract, you don't have to go through the process they set out when you're dealing with collections. And the other is to remove a loophole where I guess maybe some entities were attempting to renew contracts or enter into amendments to get around the contingency fee process, and so they closed that. You still have to treat them the same even if it's an amendment or a renewal. Next, this has to do with using the Department of Information Resources, DIR, to purchase automated information systems. I don't know how often we actually use this. It is a methodology we have of purchasing IT equipment, and all they did was update this commodity items definition to include a couple other entities. It really had no effect on us, but we're just updating the language to be consistent with the language in the statute. Let's see, management report to government. So they added a provision that requires us to report to TCEQ on an annual basis, a dam inventory and associated operations and with that. And I believe that may have been something we were doing already as well, but it's statutory now. And cybersecurity training. So they updated the language on the cybersecurity training requirements to, one, include board members. Board members are now required to go through the training, and employees, but they've limited it to those board members, employee whose at least 25% of their duty is accessing a BRA computer or BRA database. Next, this is one of the sunset items that Sunset required us to have. It has to do with public engagement when we're going out, when we're dealing with future water supply projects, that we engage the public in that process. And so this was language that that addresses that requirement. And then finally, the last provision we're updating has to do with condemnation. Under condemnation law with public entities, there is this requirement that has to do with actual progress towards a project, so that if you've acquired property for a particular project, let's say for a reservoir, through condemnation or threat of condemnation, that you've got to get started on that project within 10 years, or you could potentially have to return the property to who you acquired it from, and unless you show actual progress towards the project. The old statute, you had to show only 2 items towards actual progress. They changed it to 3. Now there is, you'll see the section down here that has to do with projects that are in the Texas Water Development Board State Water Plan, which most of our projects are. And if so, then you only have to meet 1 action item, and then there has to be a vote that you can't complete more than 1 within the 10-year period. Right now, we don't have any projects that we're in danger of any of this on, but we felt like this is a big enough deal that it should be in our operation policy manual, so that we remember it. And that is it. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Director
Yes, sir.
Huber has a question.
I was curious, whose policy is it that we cannot do business with Israeli firms?
That we cannot do
Do
what?
business with Israeli companies?
No. We can't do business with vendors who boycott Israel.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
if there's a vendor that boycotts Israel, and there's a couple other, they have to have like more than so many employees. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head.
Good. I feel a lot better now. I misunderstood that. Sorry.
All right.
Sorry.
Seeing no other hands raised for discussion, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority that the revisions to the Operations Policies Manual of the Brazos River Authority be accepted as presented at its September 27, 2021 meeting to be effective September 27, 2021.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? Motion made by Director Crone, second by Director Huber. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Tallis.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Abraham.
Yes.
Director Bourne.
Yes.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Leslie.
Yes.
Director Lloyd. Director Luton.
Yes.
Director Rankin.
Yes.
Director Ruiz.
Yes.
Director Sanderson.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 11, discussion and possible action on determination of interruptible water available for 2022 by Aaron Abel, Water Services Manager.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Directors. This item is an item we bring to you each year to establish the amount of interruptible water available for the upcoming calendar year. So interruptible water is just that. It is interruptible. Availability is not guaranteed, and interruptible water is made available on a temporary basis only. Interruptible water is firm water that's left in storage within the reservoirs that's not used in the previous year. Firm water is the water that's available to long-term contracts, and it's based upon the firm yield of the reservoir or system of reservoirs. And firm yield, I know there's a lot of definitions here, but firm yield is defined as the maximum water volume that can be diverted from the reservoir system on a yearly basis through the drought of record. The availability of interruptible water varies from year to year based on the weather and water use. So in dry years, firm use is higher, and that decreases the amount of interruptible water available. On the flip side, in wetter years, there's more water left in storage, and therefore the unused firm water is increased. So
As we move forward into the future, use under long-term contracts will likely continue to rise with increases in use of municipalities and industries in those growths. This rise in firm water use will cause interruptible availability to decrease through time. Interruptible water is sold at system rate, so in FY 2022, it's $83 an acre foot. Agricultural uses pay the ag rate, which is $58.10 an acre foot. We've been supplying interruptible water in this format since 2008, and it's typically purchased by ag and mining uses for backup supply. So we have a procedure that outlines all the pertinent details with respect to interruptible water. The annual calculation methodology includes a safety factor established by the board, and the purpose of the safety factor is to ensure that interruptible contracts don't impact long-term contracts. We have to be conservative in making interruptible water available in order to protect our long-term firm water customers. So the recommended safety factor of 0.25 provides a 75% margin of safety used, and it's been used every year since the inception of interruptible water in 2008. Additionally, interruptible water contracts contain a provision that allows BRA to suspend the use of water under interruptible contracts if we reach stage 3 drought emergency conditions under the drought contingency plan. Additionally, priority is given to requests of 1,000 acre feet and less when allocating the available interruptible water, and the procedure also has rules when requests exceed the availability in certain areas. So this is a graphic that summarizes the amount of interruptible water that's been offered, contracted, and used from 2008 through 2021. So the blue bars you'll see are the authorized amounts that were offered through the board, and then the orange bars are the amounts that were actually contracted for, and then the green, as you'll see, are pretty small, but those are the amounts that were actually used. And in most years, not much interruptible water is used. That's due to customers purchasing interruptible water as insurance or backup supplies. Wanted to give you a breakdown on the summary of 2021 customers, customers that have contracted in this year. So the total amount of contracted water for 2021 is about 55,000 acre feet in 2021. We have 6 customers or 6 contracts that are equal to or greater than 1,000 acre feet, and that's a little bit over 43,000 acre feet. And then the remaining 65 contracts that were less than 1,000 acre feet make up the remaining roughly 12,000 acre feet. And so we discontinued multi-year interruptible contracts after 2017. So we did at a period of time have up to 5-year multi-year contracts in interruptible water, but those have been discontinued, and the last of those multi-year contracts will expire at the end of 2021. So this is a slide that shows the numbers, the actual results of the calculations for interruptible water as defined in the interruptible water sale procedure. And those are the numbers shown in that second column of this table. So the amounts vary by location. So you'll see the reservoirs or subsystem reservoirs on the first column, and then the right column is the actual numbers based on the subsystem. So in total, the 2022 interruptible calculation equals 78,680 acre feet, and that is our recommendation to you today. The water will be offered to new requests received in this year's application process, and so far we've received a little over 24,000 acre feet of requests for 2022 interruptible water. So we will have probably about 54,000 acre feet of interruptible water left over, and that will be contracted on a first-come, first-served basis. If all of the 78,680 acre feet is contracted, the potential revenue for 2022 interruptible water, it would be around $6 million. So that revenue is not guaranteed, so it has not been relied upon in the FY 2022 budget. I think that's all the slides that I had. I can We do have a resolution, but I can answer any questions.
Just to make sure I understand it, so now that there's no multi-year agreements, it's basically an insurance policy for 1 year that they purchase and then it resets. There's no carryover for those clients who bought that. Okay.
Exactly.
That's right.
Director Henderson has a question.
I'm interested in knowing where the majority of this is contracted out. So maybe when you come back, if you could add a column to show us where that is, but will you let me know?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the contracts for interrupted water are mainly on the main stem, below the reservoir systems, and into the lower basin. So that the majority of them, of the contracts are located in that area.
Okay.
Director LaChance has a comment.
Yeah, I have a question. So if we're at 78,000 for 2022, and if you can go back to the chart, please. Yeah. So it looks like to me we are similar to 21. However, what you're saying is that in 21, we sold, what, 50-something thousand, and you're currently at 28,000?
Right now, the requests for 2022 are about 24,000. So
24.
we ended up contracting about 55,000 acre feet in 2021, and so far we've had requests of 24,000. So there may be some others that come in that request water, and those can be contracted on a first come first served basis.
What's the timeline on that they have? What's the application process of when does that close on the 24,000? I mean, the additional.
So after, once approved, we'll send out those contracts to those requested customers pretty quick after, early to mid-October, and get those moving. And then, if others want to come in and contract for more, that's totally doable.
I think the question she's asking is the process that we went out for. Talk about the calendar. You notified them that there was going to be potentially water available, and you had to have your application in by when?
Yeah, so we have an application process that starts in late June. Send out letters and application forms. Those are due back August 31st. And so after August 31st, in that process, we've received about a little over 24,000 acre feet. So at that point, we have leftover about 54,000 acre feet, and that amount can be contracted on a first come, first served basis. Does that answer?
It does. I think I'm a bit surprised with the multi-year contracts expiring that number of what's sold is not higher at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that we expect it to be, right?
Well, I think the delta here is, what you're saying is that some of those folks that had multi-year contracts also bought system water from us through our system operations permit, which allowed them a more firm water and less interruptible. There you go.
Yes, right. But we in the ag industry, this is part of an insurance policy, if you will. And so I was just expecting as those multi-year contracts expiring, you would actually see more of a sold-out position, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Just one other comment or observation. Drought cycles drive a lot of decisions.
Absolutely.
So the farther away we get from 2011, it goes out of people's mind, and I think that's part of what you see is just we're 10 years away from that really bad drought, and people tend to forget. If we have a really bad year this year, then next year we'll probably have more applications than we have water. It's just
So to me, 2011 and that year was like yesterday when you live it,
Amen.
And I think that's again, I'm going to go back to the projects. I think that the stewardship and the responsibility that you're looking at through some of these is really preparing for the 2011s. I mean, if we're going to be honest about it. So thank you, Aaron. Appreciate that.
So Aaron, will you just continue to keep that request out there until all of that is sold? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Seeing no other comments or discussion, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby approves a safety factor of 0.25 for use in determining the amounts of interruptible water to make available in calendar year 2022. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to make up to 78,680 acre feet of interruptible water available in calendar year 2022.
Make a motion to accept it.
Motion made by Director Ruiz, second made by Director Henderson. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Ellis.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Abraham.
Yes.
Director Boren.
Yes.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Leslie.
Yes.
Director Lloyd. Director Luton.
Yes.
Director Rankin.
Yes.
Director Ruiz.
Yes.
Director Sanderson.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Item number 12, discussion and possible action on surplus personal property by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer. David.
Good morning. As you probably know, to get rid of our personal property, state statute requires that we have to come to the board and read a long resolution for you to approve getting rid of the properties. These are properties that are either defective, too costly to repair, or simply we just don't have. Now, in this agenda item, we have 14 vehicles, and you may think that's a lot, but you got to think back, we haven't been doing much surplus over the last year and a half. So these vehicles, it's prime time to sell them, because used vehicles are going for a good rate. The criteria we use is we use 125,000 miles or greater, 10 years or older. We also look at their maintenance records to see if it's more cost effectively to replace it than to replace the vehicle rather than repair it. And in rare cases, we do have vehicles that we don't need anymore. So with that, let me let you look at the properties that we're getting rid of. So with that, is there any questions?
How much do you anticipate raising it from that?
Well, interesting to say, the last auction we had, which had like 3 vehicles, maybe 4 vehicles in it, got 68,000. And these were vehicles that were well used. So I'm expecting to get, hopefully 100,000 or more just for these vehicles. Be great. And that's kind of interesting that used vehicles are selling so high right now.
All right.
Is this public auction? It is a public auction, yes. And it's Renee Bates is who we use, which is many of the governmental entities use. And they're very good. We get good results from them.
All right, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to dispose of the following surplus personal property under the terms and conditions that are in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority. Be it further resolved that the Board authorizes the General Manager, CEO, in certain instances to continue to use and/or maintain previously authorized surplus property in a manner that is in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority until appropriate replacement property is received and placed in service. Central Office, Lot 1, 2011 Ford F-150 truck, VIN 1 Foxtrot Tango Victor X-ray 1 Charlie Foxtrot 7 Bravo Kilo Delta 22939. Lot 2, 2012 Chevrolet 1500 extended cab pickup, VIN 1 Golf Charlie Romeo Papa Echo 01 Charlie Zulu 160520. Lot 3, 2011 Ford F-150 truck, VIN 1 Foxtrot Tango Victor X-ray 1 Charlie Foxtrot 3 Bravo Foxtrot Delta 22940. Lot 4, 2011 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 extended cab, VIN 1 Golf Charlie Romeo Kilo Papa Echo Alpha 7 Bravo 292904. Lot 5, 2006 Chevrolet Silverado, VIN 3 Golf Charlie Echo Charlie 14 X-ray 6 Golf 244205. Lot 6, 2014 Ford F-250, VIN 1 Foxtrot Tango 7 X-ray 2 Bravo 68 Echo Bravo 42906. Lot 7, 2008 Ford E-150 van, VIN 1 Foxtrot Tango November Echo 14 Whiskey X-ray 8 Delta Alpha 64207. Lot 8, 1997 Ford F-350 dually pickup with service bed, VIN 3 Foxtrot Echo Juliet Foxtrot 37 Foxtrot 9 Victor Mike Alpha 18510. Lot 9, Johnson Model Juliet 15 Tango Echo Lima 4 Sierra Oscar outboard motor, serial number 230333029. Lake Cranberry, Lot 10, 1994 Case International 495 tractor with canopy, VIN Juliet Echo 0014022. Lot 11, 2008 Ford F-250 pickup, VIN 1 Foxtrot Tango Sierra X-ray 20549, Echo Alpha 32378. Lot 12, 1993 International dump truck, VIN 1 Hotel Tango Sierra Alpha Zulu Romeo November 2 Papa Hotel 497799. Lot 13, miscellaneous office supplies, decorative privacy screen, DocuBind P100 binding machine with binding supplies, automatic stapler, desktop binds, and storage trays. Lot 14, 2010 Ford Expedition, VIN 1 Foxtrot Mike Juliet Uniform 1 Golf 57 Alpha Echo Bravo 49800. Lot 15, Isomatic Ice Machine Model India Charlie Echo Uniform 300. Possum Kingdom, Lot 16, Quantity 1 Cash Box with Combination Lock. Lot 17, Quantity 1 Red and Blue Light Bar Model Code 3 X-Ray Tango 604, approximately 24 inches. East Williamson County, Hutto. Lot 18, 2005 Sterling Semi-Truck, VIN 2 Foxtrot Whiskey Juliet Alpha 3 Charlie Victor X-Ray 5 Alpha November 66110. Lot 19, 2017 CAT Charlie Tango 660 roll-off truck, VIN 3 Hotel Tango Juliet Golf Tango Kilo Tango 4 Hotel November 634418. Lot 20, Dragon Products and Industries tanker, serial number 1 Uniform November Sierra Tango 42265 Lima 033255. Lot 21, 2010 Ford F-150, VIN 1 Foxtrot Tango Foxtrot X-ray 1 Charlie Victor Alpha Foxtrot Bravo 11092. Lot 22, Quantity 4 Waste Built Model 20 Yankee Delta gasketed sealed door containers.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? A motion made by Director Crone, a second made by Director Wilson. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Tallis.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Abraham.
Yes.
Director Bourne.
Yes.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Crone.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Leslie.
Yes.
Director Lloyd. Director Luton.
Yes.
Director Rankin.
Yes.
Director Ruiz.
Yes.
Director Sanderson.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Item number 13, discussion and possible action on financial advisory services by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer. David.
Okay. We went back in April, we went out for RFP for a financial advisor. Our current financial advisor is Specialized Public Finance. Managing Director is Stephen Adams. The financial advisor helps us with analyzing our debt, issuing and refunding debt. They also help with forecasting of debt. We did get 2 responses back, Specialized Public Finance and Estrado Hinojosa was another firm that bid on the response. We looked at it, the internal BRA staff looked at it, and we selected Specialized Public Finance. And that was based off of this unmatched knowledge of BRA. They have extensive knowledge of the Texas Water Development Board. Matter of fact, Stephen Adams worked for Texas Water Development Board. Strong knowledge of Texas river authorities. You can see the GBRA, ANRA, LCRA, and of course, Brazos River Authority. They do work closely with a lot of our close customers, naming like Round Rock, Hutto, Georgetown. So Specialized Finance knows these customers and the challenges they have, which helps us with our challenges. They rank top 3 in Texas, top 20 in the nation. They have a highly experienced professional staff. And I do not have any concerns of their lack of independence because they're only a financial advisor. They do not have any affiliations with broker-dealers or any other commercial or other banking affiliations. This agenda item or resolution, we're asking for a 5-year yearly renewals, up to $600,000 for fees for the 5 years. And I don't know if you remember back in the FY22 budget, we're expecting to borrow up to $200 million. So are there any questions? Oh, excuse me, I got one more, sorry. Sorry, I forgot this slide. I just want to show you the amount that they've been doing in the river authorities, and you can see over $3 billion with LCRI, GBRI, ANRA, and BRA. A lot of business with our major customers too, almost $1 billion. So they're very active in Texas, and that's one of the strong points we have. Sorry, now I'll take questions.
And Director Sanderson has a question.
Sure.
Thank you for the presentation. It's really excellent. I don't want to sound like a broken record with respect to process on procurement, but I'm going to. How would you contrast this particular firm with the other firm that proposed on the document on this particular contract?
I think it's spelled out on this slide here. If I could get back up.
But that's not a comparison. That's just that's one side of the picture. How would you compare the two firms?
Both firms are strong as far as you do the debt issuance and whatnot. But we're in Texas, and I want a firm that represents strongly in Texas. I am a little concerned about the broker-dealer affiliations they have, making sure that I get the best deal for our customers and for us. And those two comparisons were probably the strongest thing I had on that side of it.
When it comes down to process, and again, it's so easy to fall into the trap of inertia, right? You had someone for 20 years, 30 years, whatever the case may be, and you develop those relationships. But sometimes, being human beings, we get all of a sudden this little set of blinders comes on to us, right? And so when I look at the two firms, I'm familiar with both of these firms. I think the number one firm in Texas is Hilltop. The second is Estrada Hinojosa, and I think the third is the firm that you're discussing right here. Nationwide, I think this firm is like number 19, and Estrada's like in the top 5. So they're both, very well regarded firms in that regard. But this doesn't really come down to that. It comes down to process. And to my way of thinking, given the fact that we'd be given some pretty much explicit marching orders to really pay attention to best practices in procurement by virtue of the sunset review and all that other good stuff, I think from an oversight standpoint, we need to really be careful about that. It doesn't appear that we've interviewed both of these firms. Is that true?
Yes.
But you've had two firms, and you only go out once every 5 years, but we haven't taken the opportunity to interview them. And to me, that doesn't sound like best practices. We also haven't taken the opportunity to maybe consider whether we should have a co-finance direct arrangement. And so for that reason, I think I would like to move that we table this for 2 months or until the next board meeting to give you all a chance to interview both those firms, to consider whether or not a co-financial arrangement should be done, but more importantly, to have double dog sure that we've not only gone not so much the extra mile, but actually gone the mile in our procurement processes on such an important deal. And so I'd like to make a motion that we table this and look at it again at the next board meeting.
Thank you for
I'll
your
second that motion.
comments. Director Savage, did you hear?
Yeah, I was going to second because of what we.
Can you put your mic on, please?
Because of the guidance we received in the sunset, specific to, just having two bidders even is a little bit of a concern, but I think it's just good prudence, to make sure. And also, I've been involved in a lot of bids, and you do learn some things, as people try to catch up with one another. And if you have a long-standing relationship, there could be new technology. And whether we actually use that firm or not, we want to continue to learn everything, that we can about new things in the financial services, advising sector. So it's already been seconded, but I just wanted to concur.
Thank you. Director Tellis.
My question in furthering discussion on the motion is, we can't force other people to bid. And so I don't know if Director Sanderson, you're suggesting interviewing people that did not?
No, absolutely not. You only had two people that bid, so there's no reason, it doesn't require a hell of a lot of effort to interview the two of them.
But we interviewed the two of them.
No, they did not.
We did not. We just evaluated the two and looked at the strengths and weaknesses of both of the firms.
Well, in the evaluation, what you're saying, a face-to-face interview does something different than the evaluation? Is that what you're implying?
I'm saying that best practices would suggest in procurement that in a situation like that you would go ahead and have interviews with both firms.
I know, but I'm asking is, what is the difference of an interview and the evaluation process?
An interview is a component of the evaluation process. In a circumstance like this, I don't think that you have really fulfilled your obligation to best practices and process if you haven't done an interview.
Do you view, as the expert in this, would you see something that in that interviewing process that you would ask a different question than you did in the evaluation process?
No. The other firm itself, in my opinion, I had some concerns on the fact that they had lack of Texas river authorities. The municipalities that they work with are not centered around some of our customers. And, it's the lack of independence is important. I think the broker-dealers, the affiliation that firm had, how will I ever know truly that I'm getting the best deal? And because if they have stuff in their inventory that they're trying to unload debt, I might not see that. So it's going to be a lot of extra work on my part to actually police and educate another firm.
And if we go back to your screen, your slide earlier, I think this is a comparison of what
Yes, it
you
is.
see is the strengths and weaknesses of each one. You're just pointing out, you did a comparison, and this is where you see specialized public finances being above and why you chose them. I think our responsibility as a board is oftentimes is to, not that y'all can't do, y'all do more than great work on everything, is I don't want to add more work just for the sake of, and I think this motion here does that. I feel very confident with their decision.
David, I think that, to quote Darrell Roy, you got to dance with the one who brung you. We've had a great experience with these guys over the years. They've been, they've gotten us great bond rates. They've helped manage the finances, which are quite honestly very complicated to get done properly and not have issues with. And I have no problem personally with the specialized public finance. And I think that showing there are only two firms that submitted a proposal is clearly not something that a whole bunch of firms out there are looking to do. That's all.
This goes back to process, folks. Whether or not the firm that you have on here is the best firm or not has nothing to do with process. Nothing.
I believe their process has been fine, though. I think that's what we're saying.
Of what you'd like them to do to be different than
I
the
think-
resolution we're seeing today?
I think that from an oversight basis, that we should pay special attention to the specific guidance that was given to us out of the Sunset Review. It was important enough to them to bring it up, to have it passed by the entire Senate of the state of Texas, have it signed by the governor. And so if we aren't doing everything possible to ensure that our processes aren't
All right.
first class, then I think we're
I
not
move
being
the
totally
question.
doing our duty. That's what I'm
So
getting at.
Director Sanderson, point well noted. David, please make note for in the future that he would like to see in person or more of an evaluation in person for future. And to Director Talas's point, this is the comparison that he's bringing to the board for us to consider. So seeing there are no other discussions on the matter, did you have something else?
No, I'm listening.
Okay. Did you have?
There was a motion.
There's a motion and a second on the floor.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. So Director Savage, you made a motion?
No, he made the motion, I second. I think actually Director Bourne.
Because I think what the director's saying is the process is critical, oversight's critical. We may come to the same thing. It's no different than interviewing somebody for a job. You got all the qualifications on paper, but if you need that personal touch and talk to them and flush out some of those issues you have, I think it's noted. I don't think it's a reflection on your skills. I just think it's a good process.
Absolutely. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with doing it right and by golly, having that reputation for doing things right.
All right, so we have a motion on the table by Director Sanderson and a second by Director Boren.
Could you repeat the
State that
motion?
motion, just so, real quick.
To table it.
It's to table it till the next meeting so that staff can conduct interviews and potentially consider even a co-counsel arrangement, but definitely to have interviews. And
All
then
right, so
they
there's a
could come
motion
back
on
with the
the
exact
table
same
By
result.
Director Sanderson, a second by
Are
Director
you on a
Boren to
time
table
limit
this
here
agenda
with this?
item.
No, but, and you gotta realize, it had been a number of years since we've gone out for solicitation, and I think it goes back to 2008. So, addressing Director Sanderson's comment, I felt like it was need to go back and and take another look at the different firms that are out there. And we only had 2 firms out there, so I felt like Estrada, this is a good firm, but I'm looking for somebody that knows Texas, and that's why we went that direction.
And an independent firm.
Okay, so once again, there is a motion made by Director Sanderson, a second by Director Boren to table this agenda item.
Very good.
Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Talas,
No.
Director Taylor,
No.
Director Abraham,
No.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
No.
Director Henderson,
No.
Director Huber,
No.
Director Crum,
No.
Director LaChance,
No.
Director Leslie,
No.
Director Lloyd, Director Luton,
No.
Director Rankin,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
No.
Director Sanderson,
Yes?
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
No.
Motion failed, right? Yes, motion failed. Is there a motion to read the resolution? Can you please read the resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to negotiate and execute a contract with Specialized Public Finance Incorporated for financial advisor services for a period of 5 years and may be renewed annually by subsequent agreement of both parties for a total not to exceed amount of $600,000.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
Make a motion, we accept the
Motion made by Director Huber, a second made by Mike Hernandez. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Talas,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Boren,
No.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Crum,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Leslie,
Yes.
Director Lloyd, Director Luton,
Yes.
Director Rankin,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Sanderson,
I'll abstain.
Director Savage,
Yes.
and Director Wilson.
Yes.
I appreciate the discussion on that. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 14, the Board of Directors will conduct a closed meeting and executive session on the following matters. A, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property in Williamson County pursuant to the authority granted by Section 551.072 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. B, to consult with the attorney regarding litigation with respect to the Allens Creek Reservoir pursuant to the authority granted by Section 551.071 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, codified as Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, and to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property in Austin County in relation to Allens Creek Reservoir pursuant to the authority granted by Section 551.072 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. If you are not specifically involved in the presentation of the first executive session agenda item, please excuse yourself from the boardroom at this time. With each executive session agenda item, time will be allowed to clear the boardroom and call the next presenters. We ask that the public please wait in the break room in order to keep the hallways clear until the executive session is finished.
Presiding officer, we're ready to go.
All right. The Board of Directors hereby reconvenes into open session at 12:11 p.m. Is there a motion for the board to consider?
Yes.
Please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to take actions required to acquire interests in real property for the construction and operation of Trinity Aquifer groundwater facilities and water transmission pipelines and appurtenances in Williamson County, Texas, in accordance with the annual budget adopted by the Board of Directors, and be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes and approves an amendment to the fiscal year 2022 Trinity Groundwater Project budget as follows. Increase the Trinity Groundwater Project budget by $167,000 from its current level of $500,000 to $667,000.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? Motion made by Director LaChance, a second made by Director Wilson. Please poll the board.
Presiding officer Flores.
Yes.
Director Callis.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Abraham.
Yes.
Director Boren.
Yes.
Director Fernandez.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Huber.
Yes.
Director Crum.
Yes.
Director LaChance.
Yes.
Director Leslie.
Yes.
Director Luton.
Yes.
Director Rankin.
Yes.
Director Ruiz.
Yes.
Director Sanderson.
Yes.
Director Savage.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at this time. Made by Tallis, second by Director Savage. All in favor? Aye. With no
Lunch
other
is
further
served.
business before the board, will adjourn this meeting at 12:14 p.m.